Hi. I want to talk about something really quick tonight. I'm not going to sit here and make a 55-minute video about it because I don't got time for that. Um, I got things to do. I have to run to the store and get me a rotisserie chicken and rice before they put everything back tonight on the shelf, or put it away rather. So I'm going to just make this really quick. It might be 20 minutes, 20-minute video. It won't be, I can promise you, won't be over 30 minutes because I don't got time for that. I got a life outside of YouTube, unfortunately, unlike some of these YouTubers who just sit on their ass all day and, watch YouTube videos and worry about who's talking about them and who's not talking about them and how great their views are and their analytics. Whatever. Um, I am saying this though because I've seen other drama channels talk about this and other people who do like deep dive discussions on their channel about this kind of stuff, social interaction stuff. So I'm tagging people. I'm not going to show the tags like their hashtags publicly, but I am going to tag people because I want to see what they think too, if they even want to watch this and go on about it in their own way. Um, but I've seen Shane Dawson do this a lot lately, and I've seen it's more of a larger scale problem than other YouTubers who had a downfall or had like controversy happen to them and do the same thing. And I feel like it's a cycle, and people aren't stopping the cycle. No one's fixing it. So I want to just kind of briefly talk about it really quick because it kind of does bother me, and it's like when you are in the industry, or at least you went to school like myself for like production for both TV, television, digital stuff, but also like have a concentration in media studies with your degree. It's like you kind of see people doing the wrong. It's like you were taught the right way to do stuff, but you see people not doing the right thing. It's very like it's crazy, and it all goes back to not having regulation and not having like people around you telling you the right things rather than the things you want to hear. It's not good. Not to say that's what's happening with Shane Dawson. I'm just saying in general with a lot of other people. I think Shane's making Crossers be a better person and a better entertainer, and I think he's doing a good job. He's found his niche, but at the same time, you can tell he's kind of upset about some stuff, and that's how I take it anyway. But putting that aside for right now, um, so being someone who went to school for this, and again, even like for a drama channel or someone who does YouTube like for full time or at least makes a decent living from it still, um, or being an influencer at that point. Like you kind of learn like how certain things work, like intersocial relationships, like business wise, not so much personal, like that kind of stuff, but like how you kind of conduct yourself off screen, and how you kind of conduct yourself with your fans, how you kind of conduct yourself and kind of make things work and make decisions off camera so that you look better on camera for all your production stuff, for all your public areas of appearance, right? So for me to see Shane Dawson doing this, it's kind of like I don't get why. Like the guy's really smart. Like he like forget. I always said he should never go on. Should never go been on YouTube. Like what he should have done was go into school for like marketing or entertainment marketing or entertainment business or something like that because they have programs like that out there in California at those schools and universities. So I don't know why. I'm not look. I know it's hard to get money for that kind of stuff to go to school. I'm not saying that he should have done it when he didn't do it and he took a different path. But it's like when you see someone's strengths, you're like, why are you not playing more on them? It makes no sense to me. But he still does. I mean, he's still good at what he does still. But again, it's like he could branch out and do so much other stuff. It's incredible to me. But easier said than done. Also being said, um, well, forget about that for a second. Um, but in any case, I go and watch a lot of old YouTubers like podcasts, their old videos, a lot of their stuff that they do. Because again, I think you learn things from the person, like how they are, as really like the production value, just not of them, but like how things work behind the scenes and how the intersocial relationships work behind the scenes with their crew, their staff, their people they work with, their managers, their team, their co-workers, their co-hosts, whatever it may be. Um, you learn a lot. You learn a lot of how the business works that way, by not just like the actual elements like for cinematography or production, but also the relationship status of how those things work as well, right? So I like to watch a lot of YouTube stuff because that's a great example of how that kind of relationship stuff works. Um, and for the past 4 years, and again watching a podcast that I really liked in the past anyway, it makes sense to do that. And unless you're not like a typical audience member who doesn't really care, or if you're like me, went to school for it, or a YouTuber, drama channel, a big fan, you pick up on certain things, right? Um, so with Shane and Friends podcast, right, the Shane Dawson podcast that he started back in June, I think his first episode date was June 5th of 2013. And then then he went over to Full Screen when they offered him to go over and produce everything for with him, and also allow him to be a host, get paid for it, more money. Obviously, it's a better opportunity, get better guests. I mean, obviously that's why he jumped on it. It makes sense, right? He's also was a big popular YouTuber at that point. He was on the up and up still. Um, Putting aside the stuff that he said and kind of offended people and was really disgusting in some sense, truly. Uh, to a lot of people in the public. Before, like with his co-host Lauren, I forget her last name, who was also his producer for his film that he did out in Pittsburgh, I believe. Correct? I don't remember if I'm remembering that correctly. Yeah. Um, that stuff I'm putting aside right now. I'm not talking about that because that's more the psychological stuff in his personal life. I'm not here to talk about that today. But when he went to all that stuff, I'm not talking about it. But when he went to Full Screen, talk about that stuff, the interviews he did with people, the people he had on, the things he talked about. Um, he had a lot of great interviews with people. And Shane's a great interviewer. He reminds me a lot of the way Conan O'Brien talks, like kind of very charismatic, but also in the moment knows how to set a tone for a question he's about to ask or set a tone for a discussion he's bringing up. Go watch Conan O'Brien's podcast and see how he does that with a lot of famous actors and how he's looking at the questions, but also even on his show, in his night show, his talk show, where he would kind of look kind of like stare down really quickly at the cards for the questions, but kind of like set the tone emotionally and also how to go about asking people that and kind of make it come out when they're talking about the answers to be a bit more personable, but also a bit better equipped to have an actual conversation with him, much more better than someone who's typically can't really do a really good job like that, right? Shane's really good at doing stuff like that. He's a great host when it comes to that. That's why he's also a great collaborator. That's why he's had so many people that he's worked with, or at least people have been in his YouTube videos over the years, like Tana Mojo, like I'm trying to think of other people he brought on the up and up. Trevi Moran now. Again, not to bring them up because, again, I know they're controversial in their own right, but again, just kind of give you an example of people who he's kind of set a tone for and helped bring them up on a higher level for their own sake, right? So he's done that, and especially with Full Screen when he had on these really awesome guests that they were able to be able to talent book for him, right? But here's the issue with that, right? Because he's so good at that, and also because I guess it was good, good to get like those numbers, and I guess good to get like because he had at least some artistic leeway with that, where the producer for his show wasn't again because I looked up all his stuff, right? I looked for people who were working on his team, his production, like I looked up all the credits and everything. Like these people were working the industry before they even met Shane Dawson, like at Full Screen. Like the one guy worked at Disney, I think, as an executive producer on stuff or as a director. Someone else was doing stuff like in the film industry out in LA, like really good people on his crew and his production staff, right? I mean, also there at Full Screen too, because they had some good people. That's probably why they went bankrupt because they had to pay him so well, and went out of business, so they couldn't pay their bills, rather not go bankrupt. Even though I think then it wasn't that I don't know. Anyway, so with that being said, a lot of the stuff that happened with Shane Dawson 4 years ago when he went off on Tati Westbrook and that Instagram live and went on a rant, when he had the falling out with Trisha Paytas in January of 2021, between those 6 months, he was deleting a lot of videos and a lot of full screen podcasts that were still up because people were bringing it up like, he's a bad person, blah, blah, blah. I'm not here to talk about that. What I'm here to talk about, though, is why he intentionally took certain things down, but didn't take other things down, and they kept other things up. And Shane's been good for doing this, right? I don't know why, right? So stuff that was kept up, like he kept the Jeffree Star interview up, he kept the Trisha Paytas stuff up, he kept the Jason Nash interview up, he kept the stuff with Tana Mojo up for a while. But then when he had the fight with Tati, and people were bringing up other controversial stuff, he took those videos down, even if they were on private channels for other people. He put requests into YouTube to have them taken down. He had his own videos taken down from his YouTube channel, so you couldn't see which ones were taken down. They just were taken down automatically, taken down because people were going through and seeing on what's it called, Social Blade, and seeing what like his view count go down and certain things go down on that sense of analytical stuff for his view count and how long people were watching the videos. Um, but then when Trish and him had the fight, right? And again, that's not hard. That's difficult for anyone to go through. I'm not saying what she did was right. What he did was right. Again, the way Ryland talked about stuff in his podcast at that time, it just was a mess, right? It just wasn't handled the right way. It just wasn't. I'm sure for all of them involved, it was very difficult. Okay, I know that. I'm not going to be some immature idiot and say that this person was right, this person was wrong. That's not about that tonight, right? But when he had that fight with her, she came out and said a lot of stuff that was true. Where she said, basically that Shane, again, more stuff, again, going into that sense, me talking about like the behind the scenes stuff, that social interaction, interpersonal, relationships that you have with people, social interpersonal relationships, where she said that Shane, would basically like, had legal stuff where he could like basically get a person's video taken down if they didn't like it, or if someone had uploaded one of his videos and he didn't want it up, they can taken down really well, really quick because of the legal lingo he used and had someone help him do it on a legal team. The way she put it, she didn't go too into depth with it because I guess she was afraid she was going to get legal stuff coming to her. But the way he talked about it, or the way she talked about it, again, made sense, like in the sense of like how he's able to just get like, for example, like DCIM removed, kind of like in that sense, right? Using the right words to get things taken down. Again, so Shane's very knowledgeable and very literate on that kind of stuff, right? But also how she said that he would make, again, when he would take videos down or he would try to test the waters with certain things, he would put videos up on a private channel or like fake channels that look like fan accounts. I don't know how true it is, but I have to believe it now that I'm seeing certain things now, right, in the past couple of months, where he would test the waters to see if people were in the comments saying like, oh, I miss him so much, or I didn't like this video after everything that came out about him, like seeing how people were reacting to it, right? But also just seeing like how, like, just to kind of put something up somewhere else, just to kind of like have the art out there, kind of like how like an independent filmmaker kind of just puts her stuff out there to see if people will find it one day, just for the art of it, right? I feel like Shane does that too on some level because again he does want to be artistic and wants to at least have his work out there, right? I know that sounds almost goes against everything that he's doing, but at the same time it makes sense, right? On the artistic level of it, there's two sides, so it's very difficult. I get that being in this world, it makes sense, right? Um, but so he took down more of the so he had the Apple podcast or somewhere, I don't forget what platform it was with that. He also had the Spotify account, his SoundCloud account that were him, because remember when he was making the Shane and Friends podcast, um, he had said, someone in a comment had said to him during it, like in 2017 or 2017, they or 2016 maybe late 2016 actually. Now that I think about it, on his Instagram story, and Shane never goes out and talks about it on his main channels like this, right? He'll always do stuff like this, like the aside, like breaking the fourth wall, like by the way, I'm doing this because so and so, blah blah blah, on like his Snapchat or his Instagram, not even on his main channel, or sometimes on his secondary channel. Sometimes he would, but not go into detail about it. But he also would talk about this kind of stuff in his podcast, which makes me believe this is why he also did it too. So someone asked, why, like, how is it the other YouTubers who are making podcasts at full screen are not able to like to release it on their own like private channel, but you can do it with your SoundCloud? And Shane was basically like, well, before I signed the contract, I made I had like, there was like a clause or whatever that I made them like agree to, like I wouldn't sign like a certain thing saying I don't want to have you have like full control of my podcast episodes if I'm getting certain people on, or having more artistic freedom with my podcast episodes, so that I'm able to upload it myself as well, like just the audio, not the video, but like full screen. Again, he was very choppy with the way he talked about it because again it's legal stuff, so I guess he didn't want to get like in trouble with it. But basically saying like full screen had the full right for the video stuff, for the filmed episodes, but he had the legal right to also upload the audio sections of those same episodes on his SoundCloud, his Spotify, and his other platform that he had. I forget. But I don't think it was Apple Podcast though. I can't remember. So okay, great, that's fine. So because of him doing that, he's again that allows. He's like, 'cause I want people to hear it for free. I want people to be able to listen to it if they're interested in getting full screen. See, Shane thinks by that that's another ploy by him to say like, so you guys can go watch it. I don't know if that's exactly true. I think for him it was more that he just wanted people to hear the podcast episodes because he was hoping for another opportunity to come from that, and also because again, as an artist, I would like to think he wants his stuff out there so people can hear it anyway, right? Um, because I think, to be honest with you, by him doing that, actually screwed up Full Screen's ability to actually put his stuff out there professionally and say, here's his stuff. You can only get it through the paywall or through a free membership for whatever it was, 1 week or 1 month free of Full Screen on their app service and also on their website. But whatever that is, I don't know. I don't know the legal stuff and how that was working, obviously, because Shane keeps it so hush hush. What's funny though is that Shane's also someone who likes to constantly look at that kind of stuff, right, and talk about it, and excuse me, and also talk about like who's watching his stuff, and like he's all up on the analytics of everyone and everything and blah blah blah, which also goes back to Trisha Paytas saying how, and Peter Mon, who I watch a drama channel, who's also I'm going to talk about a little bit really quick, how Shane watches everyone, watches everything about him, knows what topics are talked about him in each video. Like what I'm making right now, he knows he'll watch this entire thing apparently because he wants to know what I'm saying and how he can kind of rebuttal it or at least kind of protect himself or at least be aware of what's being said. Again, I have nothing bad to say in this sense. Like I'm just saying like that's what they've said. And also he's up on everything, not just other people's videos and their analytics on Social Blade or like the view count, who their demographic is, but like also his own stuff, right? Like he's up on everything, knows what videos are made about him, who's uploading his stuff from his old videos, his podcast of everything, right? Like they're up on everything. He keeps tabs on everything, just like other YouTubers do, right? But what I bring up Peter Mon too and he's a drama channel in case you don't know who that is. Peter said in his videos over the years, the past year and a half, so talking about things, more so openness about, how he kind of dealt with Shane Dawson behind the scenes, that Shane has a way of letting you know if he's watching stuff or not letting you know if not watching stuff or letting you know that he's aware of things or not aware of certain things. And it's funny because he said that he's really like he watches it. I'm like, well, of course he watches everything it's made about. They all do. All the YouTubers talk about themselves and like they want to make sure no one's like talking crap about them and all that kind of stuff, right? Like if you're a little bit of an ego, you want to make sure that your ego is still being shown the correct way. But I guess I didn't understand what he was saying in a sense because to see what people were talking about and actually like realize it in like with your own evidence with your own eyes, like to see like the proof within firsthand, it's like, oh my god, it hits different, right? Because I always thought like, well, he's just saying that because like Shane's obsessed with it. Well, maybe Shane actually really is obsessed with it because like I said, these Full Screen episodes, like I was going and watching, like people were re-uploading them on YouTube for the past 2 years. People have been going on like and he had his Spotify, right? I can show you right now, like I went and looked at it. His Spotify showed the all the episodes that he did not delete yet that were still up there and had stayed there since they had been uploaded since he'd been doing the podcast. Because again, I think the Full Screen had to have released them first so that he could release the SoundCloud episode, the audio files, and then the Spotify episodes. Unless this person's not actually Shane Dawson and the Spotify account and it's someone else, I would be surprised. But at the same time, I think it is him, right? So I'm going in, like I said, I've been going back and listening to all this stuff for years. So I like to learn the production stuff and like how like the inner workings of like relationships work and like the entertainment industry. I'm very interested in all that kind of stuff, right? So I'm going in. I listened to like the Jason Nash podcast that he did with him on Full Screen when for Shane and Friends, the Jeffree Star thing, and then all this. But over the past 2 years, the Jeffree Star podcast disappeared from YouTube. Like people would re-upload it, it was gone. The Jason Nash episode he did with him at Shane and Friends at Full Screen, that is completely gone. Like people would like someone like there were chat, and again, this is the thing too. I feel like it is him directly doing it because again, it makes no sense, right? where people would upload all the episodes, the full screen episodes, because people have this all banked now on their computers. So, like, it's for him to like take it down now makes no sense. But at the same time, like, I don't get it, right? Um, People were uploading all the videos, all the full screen episodes, like on their channel, YouTube channels, on other accounts elsewhere. But you would go back periodically, and it would say this has been removed, this video has been deleted, this video has been removed due to a DCI IM request or due to copyright request, blah 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 blah. Right? All these different requests because of different things. Right? I'm like, well, it's obviously Shane taking it down because Peter Mons talked about this. Dustin Daly's talked about this. Nick DeRemio's talked about this. Trisha Paytas talked about it like over the years. So it's like, why are all these people talking about it? And all of a sudden, like, it keeps happening, right? And then, so I'm like, and then it would show up for a while. But then here's the thing, right? Those things would stay up for as long, because like they were uploaded right around, a lot of these channels that were made, like re-uploading his podcast up after he deleted it, or at least was trying to hide certain things or certain episodes or delete certain episodes after all this controversy stuff came out 4 years ago. They would stay up there. They were uploaded around the same time, but then I would go back and listen to them, right? And I think they would get deleted, and they would get more deleted, and then they would keep getting deleted because I would keep going back and listening to them. And so I think there is some sort of thing that, well, I'll get to that in a minute. So okay. I was going back and listening to the stuff on the Spotify account, right? And also on Podchaser, which was like had all the episodes uploaded there too as well, right? And I was going through, listening to everything. Again, nothing wrong. It was all awesome. The full episodes were there. Only the audio, right? Well, I went back at the end of September to go listen to the Chris Crocker, formerly who's now Kara Cunningham, podcast. And I loved it because I thought it was a great example of, like I told you, like how he's great at setting the tone for certain questions and how he's able to get the person in that certain mood to like to ask the questions more freely and more openly, having like a great conversation rather than just being an interview, if that makes sense. And I went back and it's gone. I'm like, what the hell? It's been there for the past 4 years. What the hell happened to it? Why is it gone? And then I go through even more episodes and I'm like, there's more episodes missing. It's like more and more pieces are gone. So I've been working and doing stuff for the past 3 weeks, so I didn't have time to go back and look at anything. But I just went last week to go back and look, like on that Spotify account, which it says by Shane Dawson, so it has to be his account, right? It wouldn't be someone else, right? I go in through the Spotify, Shane and Friends podcast, and it's gone. So let me find it really quick. This is his old. So the one he does now is there, right, on Apple Podcasts. But the one, so I put in Shane and Friends. Let me just show you. Shane and Friends podcast. I do it really quick. This is such a boring, I mean, it's not it doesn't matter, but. So look, I put in Shane and Friends. It's backwards, I know, but it's Shane and Friends podcast. There's the intro of the down there. And it would probably be taken down after this because he's probably going to watch this video and say, oh, forget this. He's going to talk about all these secrets, so I'm getting rid of it. Anyway. Podcast unavailable. By Shane Dawson, it's reversed, but all the episodes used to be there. It's gone. Like, everything's gone. And then on Podchaser, I went on Podchaser to see if the same thing happened. Shane and Friends podcast on Podchaser. Went down. You go and try to click on one of the videos on one of the podcasts, like the last one with Mac Does It. Audio file is unavailable. Do you see at the bottom? It's backwards, I know, but it says audio file is unavailable. So I don't know when this all happened, when all this stuff was deleted, but I'm like, what the hell? I don't understand this, right? And this is what my issue is with it, right? So if you have it, okay, so like I said, he deleted certain things over the past 2 years were deleted. Like he took down the Jason Nash podcast on the Spotify account. He took down, if it is him, I just believe it is Shane Dawson himself taking this stuff down because after hearing Peter Mons talk about it and Patricia Paytas talk about it, I believe it now, right? It's not that I didn't believe him back then, but I really believe it now because of like why it's all gone all of a sudden. But the Shane Dawson podcast was taken down. The Jason Nash podcast was taken down. The two episodes of Trisha were taken down. The Chris Crocker episode was taken down. The Jeffree Star podcast was taken down much earlier, like in late 2021. That was taken down from the Spotify account, right? So I'm like, and then it kept getting taken down on Twitter or on YouTube because someone was being requested that it was copyrighted, right? So I'm like, it's not full screen doing that because Shane literally said 4 years, or in 2017, 7 years ago, 7.5 years ago now, that he had the that he had the right to put up the audio files himself on his own accounts and everything, official accounts, because he was able to get that clause in the contract before he signed it with full screen. That they only had um, ownership of the produced filmed versions of it, right? Or the ownership and the copyright of it, correct? So I'm lost. Like, why is it all of a sudden an issue that he took everything down? And I have to believe this is why. Okay, I think it's because Shane has done this over the years. I know he's done this, and I have to believe Trisha was right about him putting up those fake accounts. There's these fake YouTuber accounts where he puts stuff up and then like deletes it, and then like to see like how people are like taking things like his videos and like seeing how like they react to it still and comments and everything and blah blah blah, how the analytics go on it and everything. Because I would go through that kind of stuff like and see videos that were up, but like and I would look at the view count. I would look at the view count. It was like 55 views. It was like these weren't big YouTube channels, okay? It'd be like 55 views, and like I would go and watch it become 56 views, and I go back again and watch 57 views. So if there's no traction, but then I'm the one who's watching them and he's seeing that, like he's going, oh my god, someone's watching the video, I'm going to delete it. Do you get what I'm saying? Like, is he paranoid that people are coming back and finding that the old stuff again, that he's like deleting it? Because it makes no sense to me, right? Like, why all of a sudden? Because he started his new podcast 4 years ago, 2 years ago, right? If that was the case, wouldn't he just have like go crazy bonkers, like scrubbing everything off the internet for 2 years ago, like of the old podcast and Shane and Friends? Or was there certain contracts involved? I don't know how that works, right? But it doesn't make sense that he was taking certain things down and then keeping certain things up. So that defeats the purpose of it being like, oh, it's a contract. He can't take the full screen stuff down yet, blah, blah, blah. Or it can't be taken down because of like, some copyright thing. That wouldn't make sense. It wouldn't, right? So what Peter Mon said, right, and for a couple of the drama channels said, was that Shane watches obscenely and obsessively how many times people go and watch, like looks at the analytics, like how many people are watching, how long they're watching the video for, how if the view count has changed. So I have to believe, because I kept going back and watching those certain podcasts, like I kept going back to watch the Chris Crocker, now Kara Cunningham podcast over and over again, that he got paranoid and was like, oh my god, I have to take this down. Why are people watching this? Why are they getting so many views? Just to let you know, Shane, it was me. I'm not here to make any drama about it. I just was going to listen to it because, again, I enjoy that kind of stuff. And like I said, about the social interaction and not parasocial, but intersocial relationships that, people have, in the industry, and how that kind of stuff works behind the scenes. Because I thought you were a good example of that. To now I'll be like, why are you paranoid about that? Like, even if it isn't him, it's like, why it doesn't make sense. He has to be the one doing it, right? So here's my issue with it, right? If you're doing that now versus 2 years ago when you started your new podcast, like, what is something else coming up? Like, you're trying to start, like, you want it, like, is this a long-term game? Because if it's a long-term game to like get more viewership to your audience with your new podcast or with new projects that are coming up that you haven't talked about yet, it's not that good. Like, it doesn't make sense. And from a PR perspective, it doesn't make sense either. Like, it's confusing. But all this stuff's been taken. Like, I'm lost. So I do give props to Peter Mom for keeping talking about it all these years, and Trisha before she stopped talking about it, like does her own thing now, because I just thought like he just was obsessed with it in a normal way. I feel like he's actually like is obsessed with it. But here's the thing, right? There's 3 scenarios in my head going on about this. Number 1, Shane Dawson, because he's seeing people like myself, and I'm not the only one doing it, I'm sure, like going and watching the old stuff over and over again, that he gets nervous and is like, oh my god, they're gonna like talk, they're gonna like do something, and so I have to like delete the videos before like they make a controversy, or someone else found that like another way to get to this old podcast or whatever, and blah blah blah. I have to delete it, right? So number 1, he's going through himself, looking at every single thing analytic wise, demographic wise, and like deleting stuff when he sees people like jumping on more view counts and looking at certain things from the past podcast. Number 2, he has a service, which I have to believe is more accurate, because the guy says he walks 45,000 steps a day, has a family now, and has like other things going on in his life. It's hard for me to believe that like the first scenario is true, and this is why I think number 2 might be slightly more true, but I'm not sure, where he's himself going and has some sort of PR service or like scrubbing service with a management service where they kind of go through, use software, seeing who, because again, I know other YouTubers have done this. I went to a class in school where they told us this was true, a PR agent, where they can take, like they use like a software program through the internet, and they can go through and scrub videos from a YouTuber or influencer's account, pictures, whatever. If there's too many negative comments on a thing, or if there's too many view counts on a certain video that are negative, or it has negative annotations to it, that they can delete it, like just automatically without having to get like authorization through the YouTuber themselves or the influencer. They can just kind of go through the account, access themselves, and delete it or privatize it. Excuse me, which I have to believe is also a possible case because Shane also has like legal stuff that he's very good at and has like a legal team that's very quick to jump on things. So I have to believe that would also be the case too. Or the third scenario is that it's just all coincidence and that people are just uploading stuff, but then Shane's also putting like the legal stuff out there like to get it copyrighted and say take it down. I have a hard time believing that because I feel like these are the actual accounts that I've seen, like his podcast accounts, like for his Spotify. His SoundCloud stuff's gone. Like it's deleted. It's not there anymore. Like it was all gone. That was like taken down 2 years ago before he started the new podcast. So it just doesn't make sense to me, right? Like, and so my point to all this that I'm rambling and talking about this is that Shane, like, I feel like he gets very stressed out about this. He's so nervous about all this stuff that he's like, "Oh my god, I have to delete this. I have to keep watching this stuff in case someone like wants to like make a cancel me again, or there's more controversy down the road. I don't want that happening again. Blah 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 blah." And I'm trying to like reinvent myself. I think he's doing a great job of that. But again, at the same time, why not just come out and say stuff? Like, it makes no sense for someone like myself who went to school for this, and also other drama channels who have been doing this for over a half a decade now. They can see those same positions and same patterns, right? It makes no sense to me where a guy's been doing this for over 10 years, right, at this point, is so scared of having people find old videos or content where he's so... And I want to say this too really quick. I think he deleted some of the Jason Nash stuff, Trisha stuff, and also the Drake Bell stuff because of Drake Bell. When he went to when he had this court appearance, it kind of like was going away after that because him and Jason Nash talked about Drake Bell kind of being like kind of weird behind the scenes. So I feel like Shane was like, I gotta delete this because like it's bringing more attention to it, just like being associated with it, if that makes sense. He took down the Trisha stuff after they had more of a like she talked more about their stuff privately on camera, like in her podcast stuff, and then also with Ethan Klein before they had their falling out as well on their podcast with Frenemies, and also the Jeffree Star thing as well, because people kept like bringing up the issue before he did like the video with him 2 years ago where he went to go visit him out in Wyoming. Like same situation, like guilty by association, because like he doesn't want, like if someone finds the video and it's like it's kind of like, you know what I mean? They call it like we call it equilibrium in like in the YouTube or even like in the social media world for videos and media production, where if you still have a video connected to a topic or a person who's kind of like controversial or scandalous, and like you're not sure if it's going to do well or do bad after that because the public's perception has changed about you and your work, so you just want to delete the video anyway because like it still gives like a bad name to the company or like to the person who's making it, like how like streaming services have taken down certain videos or certain shows, episodes, or cut things or scrub things, or taking down certain films of someone who's been associated with an actor who had sexual misconduct or something bad in their life, right? Like something of that nature, right? So I feel like Shane kind of has the same mindset of that, but again, this stuff's been up for so long. Like, if you want to do that, you should have done it 4 years ago. But I guess in his mind, he thought it would have made me look guilty, right? But then do it after that. But it's been up over 2 years since you've had your new podcast up. So why now? It makes no sense. Like, I don't get that, right? But again, if it's because him just being paranoid and not having an actual like long-term plan or goal for why he's doing it, just because he's like nervous because he's like, oh God, I don't want people to find this stuff again. Like, it's just me, man. Like, it's just me and some other people watching your stuff because we enjoyed it. Like, we can separate the controversy and scandal and look at it more as a media perspective and watch it that way. But I guess he doesn't want to do that. Or he can't do that. Maybe he does. I don't know. I have no idea. I'm not here to diagnose him and figure out what's going on in his mind. But again, business-wise and also like making an effort to do things like in the media world a certain way, it makes no sense to me. But with that being said, to the major point I'm making about this at 35 freaking minutes, I told you I was going to go over 35 minutes. Here I am doing it. Um, it's that whole thing of like these YouTubers who just can't sit down, and even the influencers too, who just can't sit down and like, again, he's been doing this. He's been on YouTube for over 10 years. He should know better, right? Where just this, and again, he keeps making the same mistakes over and over and over again in the sense, and I keep talking about this in other areas too. If Shane just sat down, again, I understand the legal stuff. Like if he can't sit down and do that, that's fine. But just say, look, I'm deleting these videos because I don't think it's not right. I have kids now, or whatever it may be, right? I think it's not right anymore. I've changed. I'm moving on to a different part of my life. I'm getting rid of these videos. To do it secretly behind the scenes doesn't look right, okay? If he just sat down and made a video, just sat down to the basic video talking about it, it would be fine, right? Don't even have to go into detail about it. I said the same thing, too, about him and Andrew Sawicki and Garrett Rotz. If he had sat, and he should still do a video like this. I really think he should, like doing like a series kind of thing, like three videos, more than 30 minutes each. Because again, a digital series is. I know Peter Mont talks about it. He's like, that wasn't a series. Well, it kind of is by default, because in the digital world, a digital series is considered 30 minutes or longer, reality format, interviewer kind of style viewership or a style production, and it has to be 3 or more episodes, which Shane has done, and how Andrew Sawicki did with him when he was doing all their stuff too. But even do a series like that, three 30-minute episodes. Just sit there and like go through stuff, just like say how I'm doing in life, how you're feeling. Like, and Peter Mont talked about this too. So many people have talked about this. This isn't just me, right? Sit there and just say like, hey, how my life's going, how this is going, how that's going. How I felt about this, how my life's changed now that I have kids. Now that we're in a different place, and I have my podcast with my brother, my husband, this, that, and the other. But then break it down into one episode. Don't even give the full episode to it. Just break it down. Do a serious cut to another scene and just say, look. Do a sit down like he does, like how he has the production format, like when he did like the conspiracy video, sitting down in his chair in that room in that apartment he had like outside of West Hollywood. Just sit down and say, look, I'm going to bring this up because it's part of the story. Legally I can't talk about it, but Andrew Sawicki went his own way, Garrett Watts went his own way. After everything that happened, I thought it was better that we just went our separate paths, right? Not talking about it. Same thing with this podcast stuff, like him deleting videos and not talking about it. Then not talking about like the controversial stuff. I know he says he's talked about it and described it. He has, but don't keep elongating it. Just sit down and say, look, I'm here to tell you that part of my life is over. I'm not going to talk about it again after this. Giving this sense to your audience and the viewership that are watching you to say, look, this is it. I'm done with it. He's never done that the correct way. He's always said, I apologize. I'm sorry. That's great. But you don't shut it down. You don't shut it down. You don't lock it up and say, we're done with this. He's never done that the right way. He doesn't. It's almost like he keeps it open-ended, like at the end, to where like his apology videos are the same way. I don't know. It's like the standpoint of that from my perspective is like, it doesn't make any sense, right? But just go through all of it. It doesn't matter at this point. Just do it. Sit down and just go through all of it. And, just say, the controversy stuff I'm not going to talk about anymore. I've made my peace with it. The stuff with Andrew Sawicki and Garrett Watts, that stuff with the falling out, I've had my peace with it. I'm not going to talk about it anymore. Legally I can't, whatever it may, if, I'm sure they had some legal thing there because he had to pay Andrew so much money. He was, from what I understand, not mad or mad that he had to give him money to pay him whatever. I'm not going to get into that. It's not my business. But then also to say, I'm deleting videos from my past as well. I'm doing it behind the scenes because I think it's better this way. Just acknowledge it and shut it down and say, that's it. I'm not going to talk about it anymore. But I guess and again, he talks about this too. Don't be afraid to do it, Shane. Just say, I'm afraid to do it, but I know this is the way it has to be done. And it's just not him. It's just like, none of these YouTubers do the right thing. If you just sat down and made it a brief discussion, you don't have to be, don't have to be like Jenna Marbles doing a 55-minute video explaining why she's doing something or why she's not. Even though that's great, it's awesome, but it doesn't work for everybody. But just sit down and say, look, this is it. I'm done. I'm explaining to you what happened. This is how it's going to be, and that's how it's going to go forward. Because, and I want to explain for the viewership point really quick, and I'm going to be done with this because I'm done because I have to go get my dinner because I'm starving. By Shane not doing that kind of stuff, right? And it's not, and again, it's just not him. I'm not just ganging up on him because I'm a hate boner for him or something. That's not the case. I'm saying this for other YouTubers as well because they keep making the same mistakes. If Shane sat down, okay, as a major, former major, you still as a major YouTuber, but former, I mean, he has the power, and then, again, it can snowball, and other people will do this, right? To say, by saying this stuff, right? The audience doesn't know what to do with you, all right? And that's why I think he's lost more people who don't know how to come back to him, and even like the people he has kept, like they're still kind of like open, like in their mind, like, ooh, I don't know about this, because by you not shutting things down the certain way and not being open about it, that you're shutting things down, and you're not going to talk about it again, just kind of like giving it a brief like discussion, like this is how it went, I'm done, I'm not going to go into detail about it, this is how it is. In the subconscious mind of your viewers, it's like, well, he said he's not, like he said he's sorry about this, and he's apologized, but he's also not saying like how in the future how that's going to go. She never talked about the future in that sense, right? Going back to how I don't think he has a long term plan to any of this stuff, like how he's deleting videos off these channels and everything. So it's like by him not having a long term plan, it screws everything else up, because your audience is looking at that, Shane. And I know, and again, I'm talking about it on the other side, because again, people like Peter Mon and Shane Dawson and all those the drama channels, they realize it. But on our side, it's like it comes across different, right? Where, well, maybe Peter Mon has talked about this a little bit too, I guess. But again, it's different because he's a creator in the sense of talking about it versus than a person just directly pulling in the content and watching, because he's also discussing it, if that makes sense. So he's like on both sides almost. But with Shane though, it's like he just can't. He has to give a point to the future and say we have to move forward. We have to do it. We have to shut this down and lock it up and say goodbye to it. It's the way it is. It's how it's going to be, and move on from it, right? But because he's never done that, the audience doesn't know how to go about that, because it's like, well, is he going to change? Are we going to see a change? What's going to happen? You know, I think it's important to show both the words and the actions for your differences, right? And so I think Shane's screwing himself. I'm still so stressed out about all these old videos coming up and being shown to people, because he's never done that right. So I'm telling you, if you're listening to this, Shane, please just do a video, just do a series like that. Just talk about your life and how you sort of did it with Jeffree Star, but do it for yourself this time. Just sit down and say, this is how everything's going, how I'm feeling. Just do it, and doesn't have to be the entire episode of one of the episodes from the series. Just sit down, like take 20 minutes and just say the controversy stuff, the stuff with Trisha Paytas, the stuff with the palette in the series. It's too late now to go and describe all that kind of stuff, right? Like there's so much there, but it's like it's too late to go back and describe in detail what he didn't do right, or what he did do, or what certain things that came into the preview or the sneak peek of that stuff, like that we were shown that never actually went to the actual final cut and final edit, or the final cut of the actual series that we actually were shown. Like there was so much which we were told there was never there. Like all that stuff, it's too late to talk about that kind of stuff. Just say, look, I made mistakes with all that stuff. I can't go back and change it. I regret a lot of the stuff I did. I'm growing. I'm still trying to grow as a person. I'm getting older now, so I'm seeing a lot of things differently in my life, in my perspective. And I think by telling you now, it's all that stuff, just forget about it. You know, forgive me. I'm so sorry I didn't do the right thing, or I didn't do the right give the right actions to this stuff. Or just say like I said with Andrew Watson Garrett, because people still don't understand that. It's like you never talked about it. You never came out openly and shut it down, that people don't understand it. Just say, we went our separate ways. I felt that was the right thing to do after everything that happened, because it made everything much more difficult to work with, and we went our separate ways, and that's how it is. That's all you to shut something down so that the future people know that there is that point is over. Would make so much more sense, but he doesn't do it. I don't know why. It just doesn't make sense, and it's sad because the videos I've seen, like the from the podcast that he still kept up until he just deleted recently in the past month or so. They were not even that controversial. The stuff that he did take down was much more controversial. It was gone for over 2 years or over a year and a half at this point, right? So I'm lost as to why that stuff was not taken down faster. Because again, it was with an actual production. It was with an actual company that was backing him as a production company. So I don't get it, right? I don't know. I could sit here and talk about it in detail, but I just want to give you the basic. And look, I said it's going to not be a 55-minute video. It's 45 minutes, so I am going to go. But I just don't understand that kind of stuff. And again, he's a great example of that. Why other people aren't doing that, I have no idea why. Yeah, I feel like if he were to do that himself, like to do something like that, because again, it wouldn't make sense to me like its own video. Like I said, like he's tried doing that in the past, where he's just like a serious, like, sit down, I'm sorry, like, you know, taking responsibility and taking accountability video that he did, like it didn't come across the right way. But if he shows the things and then actually goes into a little bit of it in that series or a video, it would make more sense. Like, and people would actually listen, and people would actually realize subconsciously, like, oh, this is over. But he's never done that. He's never acknowledged and said that that's in the past. That it's a new chapter now in my life. He's never done that. He needs to come out and say that. That's the one thing. They all do it though. Maybe it's because they're afraid that it's like the sitcom effect, right? Like when the sitcom writers, they write two characters who were in love, but like they're in love, they can't actually, they don't want to get together because they're afraid if they get together, it'll be a mess. Like they're afraid of what might be or what may not be. But like when they finally get together, the audience loses interest. That's not true. People actually are like, oh well, what if they had done this, or they should have done that, or this is a new situation we never thought about, and blah blah blah. It's like you're wasting time not doing the right thing earlier. And I'm giving a production sense example of it because that's where I'm going with this. It's like I just don't. It's like you would have such an easier time with your career if you did it that way. I don't know, but if he would have wanted to do it, it would snowball, and then everyone on YouTube would not stop making the same cycle over and over. It's like these dog whistle rules that they keep following that are not you don't adhere to them anymore. Does that make sense? It's like the old rules of YouTube are no more. The game has changed, right? It's like there are so many other media outlets and social media outlets. It doesn't those rules don't apply to anybody anymore, right? But it would be such an example, not just of him, but of all these other YouTubers if they were to see that and do that too. We'd be moving into a new area, right? I don't know. But I was thinking about that a lot over the past week or so, and I was going to come out and talk about it. I'm done. If that made sense, if it didn't make sense, whatever. I'm sorry. No one's going to watch this. It's too long. But the people who will want to watch it are going to watch it. And I think Shane Dawson will watch this, and I hope he does. Okay, I'm done. I got to go get dinner. I'm starving. So take care. I'm done ranting. Just do better, people. Jesus. Like, I go to... whatever. Bye.